All right. Welcome back to Beyond the Protocol, where I'm super excited to have my guest today, Danielle Mitchell, who I think many of us know as the founder of Black Women in Clinical Research and is definitely pioneering and leading the way for inclusion in trials. And so I'm super excited to have you here today for us to have this conversation when how it the importance of having diverse leadership, right? In our operations and clinical trials and at the companies that are running research. So, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Melody, for having me.
Yeah. So, let's just dig right in. I'd love for you to kind of share with us your journey, how you got into research. Um, Many of us fall in, right? So let's hear your story and see how you landed to where you are today.
Yes, so I like to say, and Quincy Birdsong as well, Dr. Quincy Birdsong likes to say this as well, that clinical research chose me. So I wanted to become a doctor. And I remember very early when I went to Clark Atlanta University, I had a bachelor's degree in biology. I just knew that I was going to be an OBGYN because I helped deliver my baby sister. But when I got to college, I decided to pivot, and there weren't a lot of career options for someone who has a bachelor's degree in biology. And I remember at the time, some of my career choices where either I could work at a lab or I could become a teacher. And I decided to work in a lab, but I knew that I wanted to make a greater impact. And ran into a college classmate about 10, 15 years after my college, after I graduated college. And she told me that she was a CRA. She said she gets to work from home, she gets to travel, and she was making over six figures, and I was immediately interested. And so that sparked my interest in the clinical research industry. But I realized very early on that there were challenges with getting into the clinical research
Mm,
industry. It was as if my transferable skills weren't transferable. And every clinical research role that I applied for, I was rejected. So I began to think that I had failed in life because I didn't go to medical school and I was applying for all of these clinical research roles and no one would hire me. But I was at the point where I had tried everything under the biology umbrella. I tried to do forensic science until I found out that they said that if you are on the scene of a crime, the killer can come back and hurt you. So I decided, okay, maybe that's not
that
for
wasn't
me,
for
but
you.
yeah, I was like, that's not, I don't want that in my life. But I also did microbiology. I did clinical genetics. So I was at the point where clinical research had to work for me.
Yeah.
And I was going to give it my all and do everything in my power to get into clinical research. So I went on clinicaltrials.gov and I began to cold call the clinical research sites, asking them, can I shadow? Can I do an internship? And it just so happened that one of the clinical trial sites that was in Smyrna, Georgia, they allowed me to be an intern. So during that time, I did Uber Eats, DoorDash, Amazon Flex, you name it. I did it just to gain that clinical research experience. And that gave me the foundation that I needed in order to start my
Mm,
career in the clinical research industry. So I always tell people, not to give up. You know, the industry, yes, you can receive rejections, but don't take that no as a final answer.
agree. Agree. I love how our story has so many similarities. I plan to go to medical school. A lot of people that know me personally know I focused on partying more than academics my first semester. And so medical school in my GPA probably weren't in the cards to align at that point. And I went on to grad school, biology degrees, all the things, and realized I don't like rats. And so I don't like mice. And I worked in a forensic science lab too. But I didn't do anything with the science. They had me logging files into an Excel spreadsheet like days after days after days. And I was like, clearly, I don't have a master's degree just to do this for the rest of my life. And so I fell into clinical research too. And I think it's still very much the same case. Like I speak to people today, and you have a whole entire organization and community committed to helping people get in and flourish, right? Thrive in the industry. And it's still such a challenge, right? For people to get in and people to stay in and really do well. So I think we have come a long way, but we still have a lot of work to do, right?
Absolutely. We do.
Yeah.
And there's such a lack of diversity in the clinical research workforce. And, a lot of times the conversation that I have with a lot of people, they say, oh, there's a lack of diversity in the patient population. And I always look at that where the numbers are similar. The lack of diversity in the clinical research workforce is similar
Yeah.
to the lack of diversity in the patient population. So to me, I feel like it's connected. If we as a community, the clinical research professionals, can tell our community that I'm a clinical research professional, this is why clinical trials is important. I feel like that would create a major shift if we as the clinical research professionals start going out into our community and tell our community about the importance of clinical trials. And so I'm a walking clinical research advertisement. I'm always wearing my shirt when I'm getting just recently when I'm getting on the airplane, I have my gear on, my BWICR gear. This past weekend, I actually met two clinical research professionals on the airplane and at the airport standing in the security line. She just happened to, like, we were just talking, and that's why I tell people, you never know, the conversations that you have with people and networking. So she just told me that she was going on a site visit. And I said, wait, are you a CRA? And so we just sparked up a conversation. So I just think it's important to always network, and you never know who's standing next to you. And it's just an opportunity to talk and to share with people.
I agree. And I think representation matters for that reason because when people see others that they can relate to, that's when they're interested. That's when we'll get patients who are not necessarily represented fully in clinical trials now. That's when they'll start to come in and ask their doctors about trials or seek out opportunities to participate because they see people that are in it on the professional side. Like you said, their doctors are participating as investigators. It's just an entire ecosystem that we have to nurture in order to make representation really a realistic consideration in our industry.
Absolutely. My cousin reached out to me and told me that she was considering being a clinical trial participant. And she told me that the only reason that she was considering being a participant is because of me.
Mhm.
And so
Exactly.
and because of, what I post on Facebook, what I post, and, just being that, like you said, being that representation for your family, for your community, it's important because it makes clinical research and clinical trials not as scary. Like, if you know someone that's involved in it, it's not where clinical research is so far removed from you that you have no idea what it is, but you have a person that is close to you that you can ask questions. So she was able to ask me questions about the clinical trial, and I was like, "Yes, I'm very familiar with this clinical trial that she was asking about." So I just think that it's important for us to show up for our family, for our community, to be that voice that our community needs.
And I think that that's an answer right there for the leadership, the folks that are in the day to day of trials, whether you're on the site side or you're on the sponsor side or you're maybe a vendor that supports recruitment. That is the answer. It's not identifying patients, it's making sure the patients that we identify are educated about clinical trials. They trust the people that will bring the idea or the consideration of the trial to them, and they have an advocate that they can go to and say, "Would you do this? Can you help me understand what this means for me?" And so that's how we improve and increase diversity in our trials. And so I love that. Your cousin calling is a spot on example of how it works, right? What it looks like in real time. Um, to really reach those that we're trying to pull into this industry ecosystem of clinical trials. And so I want to kind of move into mentorship and networks and inclusivity. And I know there's a lot happening, right now with DEI and what is that? What does it mean exactly? And it's not just it's black and white sometimes as we want to make it. And I love that your organization, Black Women in Clinical Research, is inclusive for everyone. It's not just Black women that you invite into this organization, it's everyone in support of improving diversity in clinical trials. So I would love for you to kind of share your vision and your view on mentorship and networking and why it's so important in our industry.
Absolutely. So, with the Black Women in Clinical Research Conference, everyone is invited to attend. And also with our Zoom meetings that we have, our monthly career events, we want
Mhm.
everyone to be involved in this process because we know that it's going to take more than just us. I would say leading the path. Like, we need everyone to be included with the efforts that we're doing. Like, we can accomplish so much more if we come together instead of everyone doing their own separate, I would say, initiatives. So I'm really big on collaboration and partnering and seeing how we can help one another. Um, and so what we have done with mentorship, and so we allow the BWICR members to be a part of a mentorship program because it's so important to have a cheerleader. It's so
Mm.
important to have someone in your corner that's rooting for you and a person that you trust. And so we allow our members to, we have a mentorship matching software that will match our members with other seasoned clinical research professionals. And so that is one way that we are helping our members. And a lot of our members have received, new job opportunities from our mentorship program. And they've also been able to receive promotions as well, just by having someone that is pouring into them and telling them things on how they can improve their chances when it comes to these roles in the clinical research industry. And we also talk about the power of networking. And like I mentioned before, networking at the airport, networking, on the airplane. I do it all the time. Networking is a part of me. And I tell people that if you really want to take your career to the next level, being
Yeah.
able to network, being able to have your elevator pitch ready to go, being able to tell someone exactly who you are and what you are trying to accomplish is so important. And you're able to connect with so many people. You never know if the person next to you can offer you a job opportunity, or you never know if they can connect you with someone that they know. You never know who knows who. So it's
Right.
always important to bring your A game when it comes to networking and to go on LinkedIn and make sure that your LinkedIn profile is up to date because people are searching for you. People are searching on LinkedIn to
Yeah.
find someone, whether it's to fill a role or find someone to network with or to introduce them to someone else. So it's so important. I always tell people LinkedIn is a gold mine. Networking is so important. Your brand, presenting yourself, you know, and really letting people know who you are and what you
Mhm.
stand for is so important because your reputation is important in the industry, and you want to be able to have these connections to help you grow professionally.
Agree. I agree. And I'm such a proponent of LinkedIn and branding yourself, whether you're happy in the role that you're in, or you're looking, or you're hoping to promote, or just get into the industry. You have to have a presence on LinkedIn, and not just a presence, but a brand. People should be able to see your thoughts, your experiences, and know exactly what you're committed to, your mission, whether it's looking for a new position or offering thought leadership, whatever it is, I should know just by going to your LinkedIn profile. And I think many of us are missing opportunities because we're not getting in the game with LinkedIn. And it's just not that hard to do. It really isn't. So I'm a staunch advocate for people ensuring they are present on LinkedIn and not just silently watching from behind the scenes because they're going to miss opportunities and networking opportunities. Um, So I would definitely move into your conference. I think it's amazing what you're doing with the Black Women in Clinical Research Conference. I'm excited to be part of it this year and contribute. And so I would love for you to kind of go into that. What was your vision when you decided you were going to do a conference? Because that's a major feat within itself. And then to have one and then do it again, and now you're doing it again, that's a major accomplishment in my mind because it's not easy to do the conference in any industry, but definitely in this industry. And I see it growing and really being a valuable asset to the people that are part of it. And I would love to just understand how it even became a vision, a thought for you to do this.
So back when I created Black Women in Clinical Research, that was always a goal of mine to have a conference that doesn't feel like a conference.
Mm.
And a lot of times when you go to a lot of clinical research conferences, you have people trying to sell you software that you're not the decision maker. So a lot of times you're like, okay, yes, like this is
This is
great, but
great, but
yeah, I being like, "I can't do anything with this information that you're giving me." So I wanted to switch it up when it comes to the Black Women in Clinical Research Conference because most of my members want to learn more about the company and the
Mm,
roles. So I wanted to have it to where at our conference, you can talk to someone about job opportunities. You can find out about work-life balance and the company culture. So I wanted to switch it up to where someone isn't trying to sell you a software that you can't use, but an
right.
opportunity to really get to know the company and to get to know the people that are there. And just from the past conferences that we've had, people have been hired on the spot. There have been people who worked for the company, and just because they went to the table of the company that they work at, they were promoted. So you just never know. And I wanted to make sure that the Black Women in Clinical Research was different than other conferences,
Yes.
doing different things where people had never heard of, having a career fair at a conference, having, a meet and greet, having music, just having good vibes, good energy, where you're not like, oh my goodness, I'm in another boring,
Where do
conference.
I fit in? Where do I fit in? Because I think a lot of times people don't realize that for research professionals that are brown and black, oftentimes you're the only one in the room. And so to be in a conference where you're not the only one in the room, that's huge. That means something.
Yeah, the music, like, it's just I tell people, and my husband has said this too, it's like a family reunion.
Mhm.
It's like the conference that you never knew that you needed, and going to the conference and just seeing people who look like you, talking about topics that are relevant to you and your career growth, like, it is an amazing conference to be a part of. And I'm so glad that we are able, like you said, it's not easy planning a conference. And this is our third annual conference. So coming up with different topics and making sure that, people are like these topics are relevant to our
Yes.
members. And I just want to keep making sure that I'm making these topics that people want to hear about. So this year, I guess a sneak preview of what we're doing, but I want to have a topic where we're talking about skincare and hair care and different things that a lot of our members have mentioned, and just topics that we haven't touched on or a topic that hasn't been talked about at a clinical
Right.
research conference. Those are some of the things that I want to touch on at the Black Women in Clinical Research Conference. Maybe we might even have massages at the conference because a lot of us I'll say a lot of us, don't really have that time to unwind, and a
Self-care
lot of
and
professionals
all
that
that.
yeah, they're like a lot of us are, working, at a high level, but we don't have that downtime. So I want to make sure that we are pampered and just, having the best experience that we can have in this industry with people who look like us and people who are supportive of our efforts.
I love that. I think that's great. I know that there's opportunities for sponsors to join you and collaborate with you on the conference from that side. And I also know that I think it's expected to sell out, right? So if you're interested in going, you probably should book and get your spot. Um, and so I just wanted to put that shameless plug in. But the other thing I kind of want to wrap us up on is what is your vision for Black women in clinical research going forward? What's the future and how do you plan to continue to impact our industry in such a positive way?
So with Black women in clinical research, I want to continue to be, I would say, that beacon of light for the industry, and to be that organization that is moving the needle and doing everything in our power to move the industry forward. So collaborating with a lot of CROs and pharmaceutical companies, I think that that is really important, and also building our clinical research workforce, being able to have the resources and the tools in order to make our members successful, and
Mm.
also reaching back into the community and telling our community about clinical research. So whether that is middle school, high school, colleges, exposing students early on to careers in clinical research so they don't have to wait till they're in their 30s like
Yeah,
myself to
and
find
just
out.
fall in. We can
Right.
stop the just fall in situation.
Right, and making clinical research a part of STEM programs. And also, I was thinking about this, earlier, is, when they have Take Your Child to Work Day, I feel like the clinical research industry, we need to do a better job and with letting our families and and people's kids know about these opportunities. So we need to do a big push when it comes to Take Your Child to Work Day in the clinical research industry because this is a hidden industry.
Right.
And so letting, even if you don't have kids, take your take your
Take
cousin,
your
take your
niece, take
nephew.
your cousin,
Yeah, like
yes.
yes, take someone in your
Mhm.
family and let them know about what you do. So I just think that it is so important.
I do too. I do too. Well, I appreciate you joining us. Um, I think you know that how I feel about you and Black women in clinical research. I think you're doing amazing work, and I really am happy to encourage you and to be a part of it in any way that I can. And I'm so glad you were able to take time out and join us today for to talk to the community about the wonderful work you're doing and how they can support it. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Melody. Thank you. I really appreciate it.